Your phone buzzes, your boss emails, traffic screams, you explode. What if the chaos never stops? But you could. Most people think calm requires silence. They're wrong. Calm isn't about escaping noise. It's about mastering it. What if your next promotion depends on staying cool under fire? What if your relationships hinge on one calm conversation? Here's what nobody tells you. Calm is trainable. The loudest world in history rewards the quietest minds. This audiobook reveals how stillness becomes your unfair advantage. Why do Navy SEALs practice breathing more than shooting? What brain hack turns panic into power in 90 seconds? Which billionaires meditate before million-dollar decisions? And why? You're about to discover something that will change everything you thought you knew about success, relationships, and your own capacity for peace. But first, let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a vice president at a healthcare company. Brilliant mind. 17-hour days. She managed 200 employees, handled million-dollar budgets, and was being considered for a C-suite position. On paper, she was winning. But inside, she was drowning. Every notification felt like an emergency. Every email demanded immediate response. Her hands shook during meetings. She snapped at her husband over small things. Her daughter asked her once, "Mommy, why do you always look angry?" Sarah wasn't angry. She was overwhelmed. She was living in a state of constant activation, her nervous system stuck in emergency mode, unable to distinguish between a true crisis and a scheduling conflict. One Tuesday morning, during a board presentation she'd prepared for weeks, Sarah froze. The slides were perfect, the data was solid, but standing there, looking at 12 executives waiting for her to speak, her mind went blank. Her heart hammered, her vision narrowed. She excused herself, walked to the bathroom, and had what she later learned was a panic attack. That moment became her turning point. Within 6 months of learning what you're about to learn, Sarah transformed. She didn't quit her job. She didn't move to a monastery. She learned to master her nervous system. She implemented practices that took minutes, not hours. And the results? She got the promotion. Her relationship with her husband deepened. Her daughter told her she seemed fun again. But more than any external achievement, Sarah found something she thought she'd lost forever. Inner peace. This is possible for you too. Not someday. Not when life gets less chaotic. Right now, in the midst of whatever storm you're navigating. Welcome to Calm is a Superpower, Inner Peace in a Loud World. I'm here to show you that calm isn't a personality trait you either have or don't have. It's not something reserved for naturally Zen people or spiritual gurus. Calm is a skill. A trainable, practicable, masterable skill. And in a world that's only getting louder, more demanding, and more overwhelming, this skill has become your most valuable asset. Think about this for a moment. When you're calm, what becomes possible? Better decisions emerge. Creative solutions appear. Difficult conversations become manageable. You sleep deeper. You connect more authentically. Your body heals. Your mind clears. Calm isn't the absence of chaos. It's your ability to remain centered within it. The science backs this up. Neuroscience research shows that your brain operates fundamentally differently when you're calm versus stressed. In a calm state, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking, planning, and emotional regulation, is fully online. You have access to your best thinking. But when you're stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, your amygdala takes over. This ancient part of your brain, designed to keep you safe from predators, hijacks your system. Suddenly, a critical email feels like a lion attack. A difficult conversation triggers the same physiological response as a physical threat. Here's what's revolutionary about what you're going to learn. You can shift between these states in seconds, not through years of meditation, not through drastic life changes, through specific evidence-based techniques that work with your biology, not against it. This audiobook is structured around 4 core pillars that create unshakable calm. First, we'll work with your physiology. Your body is either your greatest ally or your worst enemy in the pursuit of peace. You'll learn to rewire your nervous system to shift from threat to safety in 90 seconds or less. Second, we'll address your mental landscape. Those 6,000 thoughts running through your mind daily? Most are unhelpful noise. You'll learn to quiet the static and amplify the signal. Third, we'll transform how you handle emotions. Instead of being hijacked by feelings, you'll learn emotional alchemy, converting reactivity into responsiveness. Fourth, we'll build the life systems that protect and sustain your calm. Boundaries, routines, relationships, and recovery practices. Each chapter contains specific exercises you can implement immediately. I recommend having a journal nearby, though you can also download the companion workbook from the website listed in your audiobook description. This isn't passive listening. This is an active transformation process. You're not just learning about calm, you're building the capability to access it anytime, anywhere. Over the next several hours, you'll hear real stories from real people who've implemented these practices. You'll learn techniques used by elite performers, neuroscientists, therapists, and contemplatives. You'll discover why some of the world's most successful people prioritize practices that seem to have nothing to do with achievement, yet everything to do with sustained excellence. But here's my promise to you. This won't be theoretical. This won't be another self-help book that inspires you for 3 days, then collects dust. Every single technique you learn has been tested, refined, and proven effective. You'll know exactly what to do, when to do it, and why it works. One more thing before we begin. You might be thinking, I don't have time for this. My life is too chaotic for calm. That's exactly why you need this. The practices you'll learn don't require you to add hours to your day. Some take 90 seconds. Others take 5 minutes. The longest practices might take 30 minutes, and they're optional. The irony is that investing small pockets of time in these practices will create exponentially more time, energy, and capacity in return. So, let's begin where most people get it wrong. Let's start by understanding exactly what's stealing your calm, how much it's costing you, and why you haven't been able to solve this problem until now. Most people don't realize how much noise they're living with until they start measuring it. We've become so adapted to chaos that we think it's normal. The constant notifications, the mental replay of conversations, the background anxiety about everything on your to-do list, the racing thoughts at 3 in the morning, the tension you carry in your shoulders that you don't even notice anymore. This is your baseline, but it doesn't have to be. The first step in reclaiming calm is conducting what I call a noise audit. This is about getting brutally honest about the chaos in your life, both external and internal. External noise includes anything in your environment that demands your attention or activates your stress response. Internal noise is everything happening inside your mind and body. Let's start with digital overwhelm, because this affects nearly everyone. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes during waking hours. Each check creates a micro-interruption in your attention, but more significantly, each notification triggers a cortisol response. Your body doesn't distinguish between a text from your friend and a predator approaching. It registers, potential threat, must respond. Over time, you're training your nervous system to live in a constant state of vigilance. Social media compounds this. You're not just receiving information, you're comparing yourself to everyone's highlight reel. You're exposed to global crises in real time. You're bombarded with opinions, arguments, and carefully curated versions of reality that make your actual life feel lacking. The news cycle never stops. There's always another story, another emergency, another reason to feel afraid or outraged. Then there's work. Emails pile up faster than you can respond. Messages arrive on multiple platforms. Meetings interrupt deep work. Deadlines overlap. The expectation of instant availability has blurred all boundaries between work and personal life. You're never really off, never truly disconnected. Your brain never gets the signal that you're safe to rest. Relationship noise takes different forms. Maybe you have a family member who constantly needs something from you. Perhaps there's unresolved tension with a colleague that makes every interaction feel charged. Some of you are carrying resentments you've never voiced, frustrations you've swallowed, needs you haven't expressed. These unspoken dynamics create constant background static. But here's what's fascinating. The loudest noise isn't external. It's internal. Your mind is generating most of the chaos you experience. The rumination about past events you can't change. The worry about future scenarios that may never happen. The harsh self-criticism. The catastrophizing. The perfectionism. The comparing. The judging. Your internal voice can be your harshest critic and your most relentless source of noise. Let's talk about what this costs you. Not in abstract terms, but in real, measurable ways. Chronic stress impacts every system in your body. It suppresses your immune function, making you more susceptible to illness. It disrupts your sleep architecture, preventing the deep restoration your brain needs. It increases inflammation, contributing to everything from heart disease to autoimmune conditions. Stress literally shortens your telomeres, the protective caps on your chromosomes, accelerating cellular aging. The cognitive costs are equally significant. When you're stressed, your working memory capacity decreases. You make poorer decisions. You miss creative solutions that would be obvious in a calm state. You react instead of respond. You say things you regret. You damage relationships that matter to you. Then there's the opportunity cost. How many opportunities have you missed because you were too overwhelmed to notice them? How many relationships have suffered because you were too stressed to be present? How much potential have you left unrealized because your nervous system was stuck in survival mode instead of growth mode? I worked with an executive named Marcus who decided to calculate his actual stress cost. He tracked everything for 1 month. Sleep deprivation was costing him at least 2 hours of productivity daily. Poor stress-related decisions had cost his company $200,000 in the past year. A failed product launch he'd pushed through despite warning signs because he was too reactive to hear feedback. His health issues, all stress-related, had cost $15,000 in medical bills and countless hours. His relationship with his teenage son had deteriorated to the point where they barely spoke. When Marcus added it all up, his inability to manage stress was costing him over $300,000 annually, plus the immeasurable loss of connection with his son. The question isn't whether stress is affecting you. The question is, how much is it costing you? And are you willing to do something about it? Here's your first exercise. For the next 7 days, keep a noise journal. This isn't complicated. You're simply tracking 3 categories: external stressors, internal stressors, and your responses. Each evening, take 5 minutes to write down what activated your stress response that day. What external events or situations triggered you? What internal thoughts or feelings created noise? How did you respond? Don't judge yourself. Just observe and record. You're looking for patterns. Maybe you'll notice that certain people consistently dysregulate you. Perhaps specific times of day are more challenging. You might discover that your internal critic is most active in particular situations. The goal is awareness. You can't change what you don't see clearly. The second part of this exercise is the stress cost worksheet. Take 15 minutes to honestly assess what stress is costing you across different domains: health, relationships, career, finances, personal growth, joy. Don't sugarcoat it. Get specific. This isn't about feeling bad. It's about creating motivation for change. When you see the real cost, the practices I'm teaching won't feel like optional nice-to-haves. They'll feel like essential survival skills. Now that you understand what's stealing your calm and what it's costing you, let's talk about why you haven't been able to solve this problem with willpower or positive thinking alone. Because I'm guessing you've tried to be less stressed. You've told yourself to calm down. You've tried to think more positively. And it hasn't worked. There's a reason for that. Your body overrides your mind every single time. You cannot think your way out of a stress response. When your nervous system perceives threat, it doesn't ask your prefrontal cortex for permission. It acts. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow. Stress hormones flood your system. Blood flow moves away from your digestive system and toward your large muscles, preparing you to fight or flee. Your pupils dilate. Your thinking narrows. This is your autonomic nervous system doing exactly what it's designed to do: keep you alive. The problem is that it can't distinguish between actual danger and perceived threat. A challenging email activates the same system as a physical attack. The response is disproportionate to the stimulus. This is why physiology must come first. Before mindset, before meditation, before any mental strategy, you must learn to work with your nervous system. And the good news is that you have direct access to it through your breath, your body, and specific physical practices. Let me introduce you to your vagus nerve. This is the longest nerve in your body, running from your brainstem all the way down to your abdomen. Think of it as your body's calm switch. When your vagus nerve is activated, it signals safety to your entire system. Your heart rate variability increases, a marker of resilience. Your digestion improves. Inflammation decreases. Your social engagement system comes online, allowing you to connect authentically with others. The vagus nerve is part of your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state, as opposed to your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight state. Most people in modern life are chronically stuck in sympathetic dominance. You're running on stress hormones all day, then wondering why you can't relax at night. Here's what's powerful. You can directly influence your vagal tone, your nervous system's ability to shift from stress to calm. And the fastest way to do that is through your breath. Let me teach you 3 breathing techniques that will become your emergency calm toolkit. The first is box breathing, used by Navy SEALs, elite athletes, and anyone who needs to perform under pressure. Here's how it works. You breathe in a square pattern, equal counts on all 4 sides. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. Repeat for at least 4 rounds, though 5 minutes is ideal. What's happening physiologically? When you extend your exhale and include holds, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate slows, your blood pressure decreases, your cortisol levels drop. Within 60 to 90 seconds, you're shifting from threat to safety. Use box breathing before high-stakes moments, presentations, difficult conversations, or any time you notice your heart racing or your thoughts spiraling. It's like hitting a reset button on your nervous system. The second technique is the physiological sigh, discovered by Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman. This one is even faster and incredibly effective for acute stress or anxiety. Here's the pattern. Take a deep inhale through your nose. Then, at the top of that breath, take a second, shorter inhale, really topping off your lungs. Then, let out a long, slow exhale through your mouth. That's it. 1 cycle can shift your state. 3 cycles will noticeably calm you. Why does this work? When you're stressed or anxious, you accumulate carbon dioxide in your bloodstream because your breathing becomes shallow and irregular. The double inhale maximally inflates your lungs, including the little sacs called alveoli, allowing you to offload more carbon dioxide on the exhale. This immediately calms your nervous system. Use the physiological sigh when you feel panic rising, when you're about to react in anger, or when anxiety is starting to spiral. It's your instant intervention. The third technique is bilateral stimulation, inspired by EMDR therapy. This involves creating alternating sensory input on either side of your body, which helps process emotional activation and return to baseline. The simplest version is butterfly tapping. Cross your arms over your chest, hands on opposite shoulders. Tap alternately, right then left, in a steady rhythm. Continue for 1 to 2 minutes while breathing naturally. You can also march in place, alternating knees high, or even just shift your gaze from left to right repeatedly. What's happening here is that you're engaging both hemispheres of your brain, preventing the emotional overwhelm that happens when your right hemisphere, where emotions are processed, becomes too activated without left hemisphere regulation. This is especially effective for processing difficult emotions or calming down after a triggering event. Now here's the crucial principle that makes all of this work, the 90-second rule. Neuroanatomist Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor discovered that when an emotion is triggered, it creates a chemical cascade in your body that lasts exactly 90 seconds. After that, any remaining emotional response is because you're re-triggering it with your thoughts. Think about the implications. Any emotion, no matter how intense, will naturally crest and subside within 90 seconds if you don't fuel it with rumination. Your job isn't to stop the emotion, it's to ride the wave without adding to it. Use any of these breathing techniques, and you help that wave pass more smoothly. Let me tell you about Dr. Chen, a cardiac surgeon I worked with. In the operating room, complications arise. Lives hang in the balance. There's no room for panic. Before every surgery, Dr. Chen does 3 minutes of box breathing. When an emergency occurs during surgery, she uses the physiological sigh to maintain her composure. She told me something profound. My patients don't need me to be perfect. They need me to be calm. Because when I'm calm, I make better decisions. I see solutions I'd miss if I were panicked. This applies to your life, too. Your family doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be regulated. Your team doesn't need you to have all the answers. They need you to remain steady when things get chaotic. Your own nervous system doesn't need a perfect life. It needs your consistent support in returning to baseline. Practice these techniques daily, not just in crisis. 5 minutes of box breathing each morning sets your nervous system's tone for the day. When you practice in calm moments, these techniques become accessible in stressful moments. You're building neural pathways, making these responses automatic. Your second exercise is creating a morning vagal tone routine. 5 minutes every morning before your phone. Pick one breathing technique and practice it consistently. Track how you feel before and after. Notice what you notice. Over time, you're literally rewiring your nervous system, increasing your capacity to remain calm under pressure. Your third exercise is what I call the Stress Response Lab. This is ongoing practice. Throughout your day, notice when your stress response activates. Name it. I'm feeling activated right now. Then immediately deploy one of your breathing techniques. Don't wait until you're fully escalated. Catch it early. This is how you train yourself to respond instead of react. Here's what you've learned so far. Your physiology runs the show. When you control your breath, you control your nervous system. When you control your nervous system, you control your state. And when you control your state, you control your life. This isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming robotic. It's about giving yourself the space to choose your response instead of being hijacked by automatic reactions. Now let's move from body to mind. Because while your physiology is the foundation, your thoughts are the walls you either build or break down every single day. Your brain generates approximately 6,000 thoughts per day. Most of them are repetitive, many are negative. And here's the key. Most are not true. Your mind is a meaning-making machine, constantly interpreting, predicting, and narrating your experience. The problem is that it's not particularly accurate. It's biased, selective, and heavily influenced by past experiences that may have nothing to do with present reality. Think about the last time you sent an email or text to someone, and they didn't respond within the time frame you expected. What story did your mind tell you? Maybe they're angry with you. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe they don't care about you. Your mind generated a narrative, and that narrative created an emotional response, which then created physical sensations, all based on an interpretation that might be completely false. Maybe they were in a meeting. Maybe they're dealing with something difficult. Maybe they saw it but intended to respond thoughtfully later. This is cognitive distortion, and everyone does it. There are 10 primary patterns that steal your calm. Catastrophizing, where you imagine the worst possible outcome. Mind reading, where you assume you know what others are thinking. Fortune telling, where you predict negative futures with false certainty. Black and white thinking, where everything is all good or all bad with no middle ground. Overgeneralization, where one event becomes a pattern. Personalization, where you take responsibility for things outside your control. Should statements, where you burden yourself with rigid expectations. Emotional reasoning, where you treat feelings as facts, discounting the positive, where you dismiss good experiences. And labeling, where you define yourself by your mistakes. Which ones do you recognize in yourself? Because awareness is always the first step. You can't change what you don't see. And here's the liberating truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness observing your thoughts. This distinction changes everything. Let me introduce you to the observer mindset. Instead of being immersed in your thoughts, believing everyone, you step back. You watch your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. You notice them without attaching to them, without believing them, without acting on them automatically. This isn't suppression. It's not positive thinking. It's metacognition, thinking about your thinking. When you notice a thought, you can label it. That's a worry thought. That's a self-critical thought. That's catastrophizing. The simple act of labeling creates distance. You're no longer fused with the thought. You're observing it. Try this right now. Notice whatever thought is present in your mind. Don't change it. Just observe it. Now say to yourself, I'm having the thought that, and complete it with your thought. Notice the difference between I'm a failure and I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. One feels like truth. The other is clearly just a thought, a mental event passing through. This is cognitive diffusion, making thoughts less sticky. When thoughts are diffused, they lose their power over you. They become weather patterns in your mind instead of commands you must obey. Now let me teach you the 3-question filter. When a thought appears, especially one that's creating stress or suffering, ask 3 questions. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? These questions create space between stimulus and response. Is it true? Not does it feel true, but is it objectively, verifiably true? Most of our stress-inducing thoughts fail this test. I always mess things up. Always? Really? Every single time? Or are you selectively remembering failures and ignoring successes? Nobody likes me. Nobody? Not one person? Or are you overgeneralizing from one interaction? Is it helpful? Even if a thought is true, is dwelling on it helpful? I made a mistake yesterday. True. Is replaying it 20 times today helpful? Or would it be more helpful to extract the lesson and move forward? Is it kind? Would you talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself in your mind? The self-critical voice in most people's heads would destroy any relationship if spoken aloud. Why do we tolerate it internally? These questions aren't about forcing positive thinking. They're about reality testing and choosing wisely where to place your attention. Because attention is finite. What you focus on expands. If you focus on threat, you'll find more threat. If you focus on possibility, you'll find more possibility. This isn't magical thinking. It's how your reticular activating system works, filtering your experience based on what you deem important. Here's a practice that will revolutionize your relationship with your mind. The thought download. 3 times per week for 10 minutes, write down every thought in your head without filtering, editing, or judging. Just let it flow. The worry thoughts, the planning thoughts, the critical thoughts, the random thoughts, all of it. What you'll discover is that most of your mental noise is repetitive. The same worries loop endlessly. The same criticisms replay. Once you see this objectively on paper, these thoughts lose their grip. You realize, I've had this exact thought 40 times this month, and nothing bad has happened. Maybe it's not useful. The second practice is the cognitive distortion tracker. For 2 weeks, daily, write down thoughts that created stress or difficult emotions. Next to each thought, identify which cognitive distortion it represents. This trains your awareness. Over time, you'll catch distortions in real time before they create full emotional reactions. Let's talk about rumination versus reflection, because there's a crucial difference. Reflection is purposeful thinking aimed at learning or solving problems. It has a beginning, middle, and end. Rumination is repetitive, passive thinking that loops without resolution. It replays the same scenarios, asking the same questions, without moving toward solutions. How do you know which you're doing? Reflection feels productive, even if uncomfortable. You're extracting insights. Rumination feels stuck. You're spinning in circles. If you've thought about something more than 3 times without any new insight or action, you're ruminating. The solution isn't to stop thinking, it's to schedule thinking. Create a worry window, a specific time each day when you allow yourself to worry deliberately. 15 to 30 minutes. When worries appear outside this window, tell them, "Not now. I'll think about you at 4 o'clock. Then, at 4 o'clock, sit down and worry intentionally. Write down your worries. Problem solve. Then close the window. What most people find is that when worry time arrives, many worries have resolved themselves or feel less urgent. And the worries that remain can be addressed more effectively when you're giving them focused attention, rather than letting them hijack your entire day. Let me tell you about James, an entrepreneur who was drowning in anxiety. His company was growing, but so was his worry. He'd wake at 3 in the morning with racing thoughts about cash flow, hiring, competition, everything. The anxiety was constant background noise, making it impossible to think clearly or enjoy any success. James implemented the worry window. Every day at 5 in the afternoon, he sat with a journal for 30 minutes. He wrote down every worry. Then he categorized them. Things he could control, things he could influence, and things completely outside his control. For things he could control, he made action plans. For things he could influence, he identified next steps. For things outside his control, he practiced acceptance. Within 3 weeks, his nighttime anxiety disappeared. Why? Because his brain learned that worry had a designated time and place. It didn't need to alert him randomly throughout the day. The worries weren't ignored. They were managed systematically. This leads us to meditation, which has become trendy but is often misunderstood. Meditation isn't about emptying your mind. That's impossible. It's about changing your relationship with your mind. It's practicing the observer mindset in a focused way. Start small. 5 minutes daily is more valuable than 30 minutes once a week. Find a comfortable position. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Focus on your breath, not controlling it, just noticing it. When your mind wanders, and it will, gently return attention to breath. That's the practice. Notice, wander, return. Notice, wander, return. You're not failing when your mind wanders. The wandering is expected. The practice is the returning. Each time you notice you've wandered and bring your attention back, you're strengthening your awareness muscle. You're training your ability to choose where your attention goes, instead of being dragged around by every thought that appears. Over time, this practice generalizes to daily life. You'll notice yourself getting hijacked by thoughts, and you'll remember, I can choose, I can return to presence, I can observe without attaching. The companion audio for this audiobook includes guided meditations of varying lengths. Start with the 5-minute version. Do it daily for 2 weeks before deciding whether it's working. Your mind will resist. It will tell you it's boring, pointless, that you don't have time. That's just noise. Notice it and return to the practice. Here's a profound question to sit with. What would your life look like if you believed only the thoughts that serve you? Not suppressing other thoughts, but choosing not to invest belief in them. What if you could watch anxious thoughts pass by without being swept into anxiety? What if critical thoughts appeared, but you didn't identify with them? This is freedom. Not freedom from thoughts, but freedom from being controlled by them. Your mind will always generate noise. The question is whether you'll mistake that noise for truth, or whether you'll recognize it for what it is. Mental weather. Passing patterns that don't define you. You've now learned to control your physiology through breath, and to change your relationship with thought through awareness. The next piece is emotion, because this is where most people get stuck. They can breathe well and watch their thoughts, but when strong emotions arise, they're still hijacked. Let's start with what emotions actually are. They're not problems to solve. They're information, data about your needs, values, and the relationship between you and your environment. Anger tells you a boundary has been violated. Anxiety signals potential danger or unpreparedness. Sadness indicates loss or disconnection. Joy reveals alignment with your values. Each emotion carries a message. The issue isn't that you have emotions. The issue is how you relate to them. Most people do one of 3 things: suppress emotions, express them reactively, or get overwhelmed by them. None of these strategies work well long-term. Suppression creates psychological and physical problems. Emotions don't disappear when ignored. They go underground, creating tension, anxiety, and eventually physical symptoms. Reactive expression damages relationships and often doesn't even resolve the emotion because you haven't processed its underlying message. Overwhelm keeps you stuck in emotional intensity without forward movement. What's needed is emotional alchemy, transforming raw, emotional energy into conscious response. This requires a different approach, one that honors emotions while not being controlled by them. Let me teach you the RAIN method, developed by meditation teacher Michelle McDonald and popularized by psychologist and author Tara Brach. RAIN is an acronym: recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. It's a practice for working with difficult emotions in a compassionate, productive way. Recognize means naming what you're feeling. This is harder than it sounds. Most people have limited emotional vocabulary. They say stressed for 20 different internal experiences. Expand your vocabulary. Are you anxious, overwhelmed, frustrated, disappointed, resentful, scared, lonely, exhausted? Name it specifically. Neuroscience research shows that labeling emotions reduces their intensity. The act of putting feelings into words activates your prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate your amygdala. Allow means making space for the emotion without trying to fix or change it. This isn't resignation, it's acceptance of what's already present. You can't change something until you accept that it exists. When you allow an emotion, you stop fighting it. That internal resistance is often more painful than the emotion itself. Investigate means getting curious about the emotion. Where do you feel it in your body? What triggered it? What need is underneath it? What's the message? This is different from rumination. You're not asking why me or replaying the trigger. You're exploring the internal landscape with genuine curiosity. Nurture means offering yourself compassion. What do you need right now? What would you offer a friend feeling this way? Maybe it's kind words, a hand on your heart, a few deep breaths, or simply acknowledging how hard this feels. Self-compassion isn't self-pity. It's recognizing that suffering is part of the human experience and treating yourself with the kindness you deserve. Let's apply rain to specific emotions, starting with anger. Anger gets a bad reputation, but it's incredibly valuable information. Anger says, a boundary was crossed, a value was violated, I matter and so do my needs. The problem isn't anger itself, it's what we do with it. Reactive anger damages relationships. You lash out, say things you regret, create more problems than you solve. Suppressed anger turns inward, becoming resentment, passive aggression, or depression. But alchemized anger becomes fierce boundary setting and powerful advocacy for yourself and others. When anger arises, recognize it immediately. I'm angry. Allow it. Don't judge yourself for feeling angry. Investigate. What boundary was crossed? What need isn't being met? What value is at stake? Then nurture. Take a few breaths. Feel your feet on the ground. Remind yourself, my anger is valid. I can respond from strength, not reaction. Only after you've moved through rain do you take action. Now you can set a boundary clearly and calmly. You can have a difficult conversation from a grounded place. You can advocate for yourself without aggression. This is anger transformed into power. Anxiety is another emotion that paralyzes many people. Anxiety is anticipation of threat, your system's attempt to protect you. In small doses, it's helpful. It motivates preparation and caution. But chronic anxiety, where you're constantly scanning for danger, is exhausting and counterproductive. When anxiety appears, recognize it. I'm feeling anxious. Allow it. Don't shame yourself or try to think it away. Investigate. What am I anxious about specifically? Is this a real threat or a perceived one? What's the worst-case scenario? What's the most likely scenario? What can I actually control here? Then nurture. Remind yourself, I've been anxious before and survived. I can handle uncertainty. I'm safe right now. Anxiety often wants you to prepare, so direct that energy usefully. If you're anxious about a presentation, practice. If you're worried about a conversation, plan what you'll say. Take one concrete action toward addressing the concern. This transforms anxiety from paralyzing worry into productive preparation. Sadness is perhaps the most avoided emotion in our culture. We're told to be positive, to move on, to find the silver lining. But sadness is how we process loss. It's how we honor what mattered to us. Bypassing sadness leads to unprocessed grief that resurfaces in unexpected ways. When sadness comes, recognize it without judgment. I'm sad. Allow it fully. Give yourself permission to feel it. Investigate. What am I grieving? What did I lose? What did this mean to me? Then nurture. Comfort yourself as you would a hurting child. It's okay to be sad. This matters. Take the time you need. Sadness naturally transforms into gratitude when given space. You grieve because something mattered. The depth of sadness reflects the depth of love or meaning. As you process the loss, you can also appreciate what you had. This is alchemy. Sadness becoming grateful remembrance. The most powerful practice for working with emotions is the 10-second pause. When you feel triggered, when you want to react immediately, pause. 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds of space between stimulus and response. In that pause, Take 2 deep breaths. Name what you're feeling. Ask yourself, how do I want to respond to this? Those 10 seconds can save relationships, prevent regrets, and shift entire trajectories. You're interrupting automatic reactivity and inserting conscious choice. At first, this will feel impossible. Your habitual reactions are strong, but with practice, the pause becomes natural. Let me tell you about Maria, a mother of 3 teenagers. Her household was chaos. Her kids would push boundaries, talk back, create drama. Maria's pattern was to explode in anger, yell, then feel guilty. The cycle repeated daily. She hated who she was becoming as a parent. Maria learned RAIN and the 10-second pause. The first time her daughter rolled her eyes and said something disrespectful, Maria felt the familiar rage rising. But this time, she paused. 10 seconds. She took 2 breaths. She recognized, I'm angry. This feels disrespectful. She investigated. She's testing boundaries. She's also stressed about school. My yelling hasn't helped. She nurtured herself. I can handle this calmly. Then Maria responded instead of reacted. She looked at her daughter and said calmly but firmly, that tone doesn't work for me. Try again. Her daughter, shocked by the non-reaction, actually apologized. The entire dynamic shifted. It wasn't perfect immediately, but Maria had demonstrated something powerful. She could stay calm even when provoked. Within months, Maria's relationship with all 3 kids improved dramatically. They still had conflicts, but without the volatile escalations. Her daughter later told her, Mom, you're different now. You're calmer. It makes me feel safer. That's the ripple effect of emotional regulation. When you remain steady, others feel safer. When you don't react, others learn to regulate themselves. Your calm becomes contagious. Your exercise here is the emotion wheel. Download one online or create your own. It's a circular diagram with basic emotions in the center and more nuanced emotions radiating outward. When you feel something difficult, use the wheel to find the most accurate word. This single practice will transform your emotional awareness. The second exercise is the reactivity journal. For 3 weeks, daily, track moments when you felt emotionally activated. Write down the trigger, your emotion, your reaction, and how you wish you'd responded. Look for patterns. Notice your most common triggers and reactions. This awareness is the foundation for change. The third exercise is the pause practice. Start small. In low-stakes moments when you feel mildly irritated or frustrated, practice pausing for 10 seconds before responding. Build this muscle in easy situations so it's available in hard ones. Here's what you're learning. Emotions don't control you unless you let them. You're not trying to become emotionless. You're becoming emotionally intelligent. You feel fully, but you choose consciously how to respond. This is mastery. Now let's talk about why all of this falls apart if you don't protect it with boundaries. Because you can breathe perfectly, watch your thoughts masterfully, and process emotions skillfully. But if you're constantly overwhelmed by other people's demands and digital chaos, you'll never sustain calm. Boundaries are one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal development. Many people think boundaries are walls that keep others out. That's not quite right. Boundaries are clarity about where you end and others begin. They're honest communication about your needs, limits, and availability. They're the foundation of sustainable relationships and personal peace. There are 4 types of boundaries you need to master: physical, emotional, time, and digital. Physical boundaries are about your body and personal space, who can touch you and how. how close people can stand, what you're comfortable with physically. Emotional boundaries are about taking responsibility for your own emotions and not taking responsibility for others' emotions. Time boundaries are about protecting your energy and attention, saying no to commitments that drain you. Digital boundaries are about managing technology's intrusion into your life. Most people struggle with boundaries because they fear conflict, rejection, or being seen as selfish. Let's address this directly. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-preserving. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't show up for others if you're depleted. And here's what's paradoxical. Clear boundaries actually improve relationships. When people know your limits, they don't have to guess. There's less resentment, fewer misunderstandings, and more authentic connection. The clearest sign you need better boundaries is resentment. If you feel resentful toward someone, it's almost always because a boundary was violated and you didn't address it. Maybe you said yes when you meant no. Maybe you tolerated something intolerable. Maybe you gave more than you had to give. Resentment is your internal compass saying, course correction needed. Let's talk about saying no, because this is where many people get stuck. You don't need elaborate excuses. You don't need to over-explain. A simple, kind no is complete. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I need to decline. These are full sentences. If you feel you need to soften it, you can add one brief line without justifying. I'm not available for that, but I hope you find someone who is. That doesn't work for me, but thank you for thinking of me. I need to decline to protect my current commitments. Notice there's no apology for having limits. Here's a library of no scripts for different situations. When a friend asks you to help them move, but you're exhausted. I'm not able to help this time, but I hope the move goes smoothly. When your boss asks you to take on another project, but you're at capacity. I'd like to help, but I'm at my limit right now. If this is a priority, which current project should I deprioritize? When a family member demands your time in a way that doesn't work. I love spending time with you, and I need to set aside Sundays for rest. Let's find another time that works for both of us. When someone asks you to join a committee or volunteer role, I appreciate you thinking of me, and I'm not taking on new commitments right now. Practice these out loud. Seriously. Stand in front of a mirror and say these phrases until they feel natural. Most people's discomfort with boundaries is that they've never practiced them. The words feel foreign. Make them familiar. Digital boundaries deserve special attention because they're constantly eroded by design. Tech companies profit from your attention. Apps are engineered to be addictive. Notifications are designed to pull you back repeatedly. If you don't actively set boundaries, your digital life will consume your real life. Start with your phone. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Everything except calls and texts from priority contacts. Remove email notifications entirely. Email is not an emergency communication channel. Check it on your schedule, not whenever it demands your attention. Next, delete or move social media apps off your home screen. This creates friction. Instead of mindlessly opening Instagram 40 times a day, you have to intentionally choose it. Most people find their usage drops 70% with this one change. Set screen time limits. Most phones have built-in features. Cap social media at 30 minutes daily. You'll be shocked how much time this reclaims. Use grayscale mode. Color is stimulating. Grayscale makes your phone less appealing, reducing compulsive checking. Create phone-free zones and times. No phones in the bedroom. Charge it outside your room. No phones during meals. No phones for the first hour after waking or the last hour before bed. These boundaries protect your sleep, your relationships, and your mental space. Email boundaries are equally crucial. Check email at specific times only. Twice daily is plenty for most people. Morning and mid-afternoon. Turn off your email program between checks. Remove it from your phone if possible. Email is asynchronous communication. It doesn't require instant response. Use autoresponders to manage expectations. I check email twice daily and will respond within 24 hours. This trains people that you're not instantly available, which actually increases their respect for you. Constant availability signals low value. Thoughtful response signals high value. Relationship boundaries are often the most challenging because they involve people you care about. But this is where they matter most. Energy vampires, trauma dumpers, boundary pushers. These people will drain you completely if you don't protect yourself. An energy vampire is someone who leaves you feeling exhausted after interactions. They complain constantly, need endless support, but never take responsibility or change. They want you to fix their problems, manage their emotions, or simply witness their suffering endlessly. You care about them, but they're draining your reserves. The boundary here is limiting exposure and redirecting. I care about you, and I'm not able to be your only support person. Have you considered talking to a therapist? Offer empathy without taking responsibility for fixing their life, and limit your availability. You don't have to answer every call or text immediately. Trauma dumpers share intensely personal or disturbing information without checking whether you have the capacity to hold it. They don't ask if you're in a good place to hear something heavy. They just unload. The boundary is consent. I want to support you, and I'm not in a good headspace right now to hear something heavy. Can we talk tomorrow? Or, before you share, I need to know if you're looking for advice or just venting, and how much time you need. Boundary pushers test your limits repeatedly. You say no, they keep asking. You set a rule, they try to negotiate. The only effective response is consistency. Don't explain multiple times. Don't justify. Simply repeat your boundary. As I said, that doesn't work for me. Then change the subject or disengage. When they learn that pushing doesn't work, they'll stop. Let me tell you about David, a classic people pleaser. He was the person everyone called when they needed something. The friend who helped everyone move, who loaned money freely, who was always available. David thought he was being kind, but underneath he was exhausted and resentful. His own life was on hold while he managed everyone else's. David conducted a boundary audit. He listed every commitment, relationship, and obligation. Next to each, he wrote whether it energized or drained him. The results were stark. 80% of his time went to things that drained him. He was living everyone else's priorities except his own. He started saying no. At first, it felt terrible. People were surprised, some even offended. One friend accused him of being selfish. But David held firm. He committed to a simple rule. If it's not a clear yes, it's a no. If he had to convince himself to say yes, the answer was no. Within 3 months, David reclaimed 15 hours per week. He used that time to launch the side business he'd been talking about for years. His energy returned. His resentment dissolved. And the friends who mattered respected his boundaries. The ones who didn't respect them revealed themselves as people who valued what he could do for them, not who he was. That's the beautiful thing about boundaries. They clarify relationships. They show you who respects you and who was using you. It might hurt to see clearly, but it's necessary for authentic connection. Your boundary audit is next. Take 20 minutes. List every commitment, relationship, and obligation in your life. Rate each on a scale of 1 to 10 for how much it energizes versus drains you. Anything below a 7 is a candidate for renegotiation or removal. This isn't about becoming isolated. It's about investing your finite energy wisely. The weekly no practice is simple. Decline 3 requests this week. Start small if needed. Say no to optional meetings, social obligations you dread, tasks that aren't your responsibility. Build your no muscle. Your digital detox design takes 30 minutes. Audit your phone and computer. Remove or limit notifications. Delete distracting apps. Set screen time limits. Create phone-free zones. Customize these based on your life, but be aggressive. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Protect it fiercely. You're building a life where your time, energy, and attention are yours, where you choose consciously instead of defaulting to others' demands. This is how calm becomes sustainable. Now let's talk about focus, because without it, everything we've discussed falls apart. In a world designed to fracture your attention, your ability to focus deeply is a superpower. This is where you create your best work, where time disappears, where you access flow states that are both productive and deeply satisfying. The enemy of focus is multitasking, which is a myth. Your brain cannot do 2 cognitively demanding tasks simultaneously. What you think is multitasking is actually rapid task switching, and every switch costs you. Research shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to full focus after an interruption. Every email check, every notification, every quick question from a colleague costs you 23 minutes of productive time. This is called attention residue. When you switch tasks, part of your attention remains on the previous task. You're never fully present for the new task. Your cognitive capacity is fragmented. You're running at 50% or less of your capability. The solution is monotasking, giving one thing your complete attention. This requires structural changes, not just willpower. You need to design your environment and schedule to support deep work. Start with 90-minute focus blocks. This aligns with your ultradian rhythms, natural cycles of high and low alertness that occur throughout the day. Most people can sustain deep focus for about 90 minutes before needing recovery. During this time, you work on one thing only. No email, no messages, no interruptions. Before you begin, prepare completely. Go to the bathroom. Get water. Eliminate any reason you might need to break focus. Close all unnecessary programs and browser tabs. Put your phone in another room or in a drawer. Tell people you're unavailable. Treat this time as sacred. Choose your most important work for these blocks. Not email, not administrivia. Your highest leverage activity, the thing that actually moves your life or career forward. For a writer, it's writing. For an entrepreneur, it's strategy or client work. For a student, it's studying or problem solving. During the block, when your mind wants to wander to other tasks, keep a pad of paper nearby. Jot down the thought and return to your focus. You're not losing the idea. You're parking it to address later. This external storage allows your mind to let go instead of holding on. After 90 minutes, take a real break. Not a break where you check email, not a break on your phone, a recovery break. Walk outside, stretch. Look at distant objects to rest your eyes. Hydrate. Give your brain genuine rest for 10 to 15 minutes. Then you can do another 90-minute block if needed, though most people's capacity is 2 to 3 blocks of deep work daily. Environment. Design matters enormously. Your workspace should support focus, not sabotage it. Remove visual clutter. Every object in your field of vision takes a small amount of cognitive load. A clean desk isn't about aesthetics. It's about preserving mental energy. Control your auditory environment. Some people focus best in silence. Others need white noise or music. Experiment. Binaural beats at certain frequencies can enhance focus. Brown noise masks distracting sounds. Instrumental music can create a focus-friendly soundscape without the distraction of lyrics. Find what works for you and use it consistently. Your brain will associate that sound with focus, making it easier to drop in. Temperature and lighting affect focus too. Most people think best in slightly cool environments, around 68 degrees. Bright, cool-toned light increases alertness. Warm, dim light promotes relaxation. Use this knowledge strategically. The shutdown ritual is equally important as the startup ritual. When you're done working for the day, you need a clear closing process. This prevents work from bleeding into your personal time mentally. Review what you accomplished. Identify your priorities for tomorrow. Close all work-related programs. Physically close your laptop. Say a phrase like "work is complete." This signals to your brain that you're transitioning. Without a shutdown ritual, work continues mentally. You think about problems during dinner. You ruminate about projects while trying to sleep. The boundary between work and rest dissolves, and neither time is fully satisfying. Let me tell you about Amy, a writer who was drowning in distraction. She'd sit down to write, and 2 hours would pass with maybe 300 words produced. She'd check email, research things loosely related to her topic, scroll through articles, respond to messages. She was busy, but not productive. Her writing career was stalling despite working long hours. Amy implemented the deep work protocol. She scheduled one 90-minute block every morning before email, before anything else. During this time, her phone stayed in another room. Her internet browser stayed closed. She used a basic word processor with no bells and whistles. Just her and the blank page. The first few days were uncomfortable. Her mind resisted. She wanted to check things, to look things up, to do anything but write. But she stayed with it. By week 2, something shifted. She entered flow. The words came. The time disappeared. She was present with her work in a way she hadn't been in years. After 12 weeks, Amy had completed her first book draft. She'd been trying to write it for 3 years. 90-minute focus blocks, 5 days per week, transformed her output. But more than that, they transformed her relationship with her work. Writing became satisfying again instead of stressful. She was creating from depth instead of skimming the surface. Your distraction inventory is first. For 1 week, track every interruption and distraction during work time, every notification, every email check, every conversation, every rabbit hole. Write them down. At the end of the week, you'll see clearly what's stealing your focus. This awareness is shocking for most people. Then take the 30-day deep work challenge. One 90-minute focus block daily. Same time every day if possible. Same location. Same focus ritual to start. Track your output and your experience. Notice what changes. Environment optimization takes 45 minutes. Audit your workspace. What can you remove? What can you adjust? How can you minimize distractions? Make the changes. Treat your environment as a tool for cognitive performance, not just a place you happen to sit. With these practices, you're not just working differently, you're thinking differently. You're accessing capacities you'd forgotten you had. You're proving to yourself that you can focus, that you can create, that you can produce meaningful work even in a distractible world. This competence builds confidence, which reinforces calm. You know you can handle what's required because you're demonstrating it daily. Now, let's address relationships, because no amount of personal calm matters if your relationships create constant chaos. Your closest relationships either support your peace or undermine it. They're either refugees from the world's noise or sources of additional stress. The quality of your relationships is determined by the quality of your communication. Most communication is terrible. People talk at each other, not with each other. They wait for their turn to speak instead of listening. They assume they understand without checking. They react defensively. They criticize instead of clarify. The result is disconnection, conflict, and cumulative resentment. Real listening is rare. Most people are listening to respond, to defend, to advise, or to relate it back to themselves. That's not listening. That's waiting to talk. Real listening means giving someone your complete attention, being genuinely curious about their experience, and setting aside your own agenda. Try this experiment. In your next conversation, commit to 60 seconds of pure listening. Don't interrupt. Don't plan your response. Don't relate it to your own experience. Just listen. Notice what the person is really saying beneath their words. Notice their emotion. Notice what matters to them. Then reflect back what you heard. It sounds like you're feeling frustrated because this simple practice transforms conversations. When people feel truly heard, their defensiveness drops. They soften. They become more open. Most conflicts aren't about the surface issue. They're about feeling unseen, unheard, or unvalued. When you give someone genuine attention, you often resolve the real issue without ever addressing the surface one. Nonviolent communication, developed by Marshall Rosenberg, offers a framework for speaking in ways that create connection instead of conflict. It has 4 components: observation, feeling, need, and request. Observation means stating what actually happened without interpretation or judgment. You didn't call me yesterday is an observation. You never care about me is interpretation. Stick to facts. Feeling means expressing your emotion without blaming. I felt worried is a feeling. You made me worried is blame. Own your emotions. Others don't create your feelings. They trigger feelings that arise from your own needs and interpretations. Need means identifying what's underneath your feeling. I felt worried because I need reliability in our communication connects feeling to need. All emotions point to needs. Anger points to needs for respect, autonomy, or justice. Sadness points to needs for connection or belonging. Anxiety points to needs for safety or certainty. Name the need. Request means asking for something specific and doable. Would you be willing to text me if you can't call? Is a request. I need you to be more considerate is vague and not actionable. Make clear, concrete requests that the other person can actually fulfill. This framework prevents the communication patterns that destroy relationships. Instead of, "You never listen to me, you're so selfish," you'd say, When I'm sharing something important and you check your phone, observation, I feel hurt, feeling, because I need to feel valued in this relationship. Need. Would you be willing to put your phone away when we're talking? Request. The difference is profound. The first creates defensiveness. The second creates understanding. Same issue, radically different impact. Difficult conversations are inevitable. The question isn't whether to have them, but how. Most people avoid difficult conversations until the issue becomes critical. Then they have the conversation in the worst possible way, escalated and emotional. Or they never have it, and the relationship dies slowly from accumulated resentment. The key is to have difficult conversations early and skillfully. Use the BIFF response framework: brief, informative, friendly, firm. Keep it brief. Long explanations become arguments. Stay informative. Focus on facts and your experience. Remain friendly in tone even when the content is challenging. Be firm in your boundary or request. Here's an example. Your colleague repeatedly interrupts you in meetings. A BIFF response. I've noticed you've jumped in while I'm speaking in the last few meetings. I need to complete my thoughts before discussion begins. Can we agree on that? Brief. Informative. Friendly but firm. Contrast that with, you always interrupt me, and it's incredibly disrespectful, and you clearly don't value my input, and this has been going on forever, and I'm sick of it. This creates defensiveness and escalation. The BIFF approach creates clarity and possibility for change. Repair attempts are crucial for long-term relationship health. You will mess up. You'll be reactive. You'll say things you regret. The question is whether you repair. Repair means acknowledging your mistake, taking responsibility without justifying, and making amends. I was harsh earlier. I was stressed, but that's not your fault. I'm sorry. Can we start over? This is a repair. It's simple, sincere, and focused on reconnection. Don't over-explain. Don't justify. Just acknowledge, apologize, and move forward. Research shows that successful relationships aren't characterized by never having conflict. They're characterized by effective repair. The couples who stay together aren't the ones who never fight. They're the ones who know how to come back together after rupture. The curiosity mindset is your most powerful communication tool. Instead of assuming you understand, ask questions. Instead of stating your interpretation as fact, inquire. I'm curious about something. When you said X, what did you mean? Help me understand why this matters to you. What would be most helpful for you right now? Questions create openness. Statements create defensiveness. When you ask instead of tell, you invite the other person into dialogue. You signal that you care about their perspective. You create space for understanding. Let me tell you about Rachel and Tom. They'd been married 12 years. They loved each other but had fallen into terrible communication patterns. They'd snap at each other over small things. Conversations about logistics turned into fights about respect. They stopped sharing their real feelings, sticking to surface-level exchanges to avoid conflict. Their turning point came when they learned nonviolent communication. They started practicing, awkwardly at first. Tom would catch himself mid-criticism and restart. Wait, let me try this differently. When you scheduled the appointment without checking with me, I felt frustrated because I need to be included in decisions that affect my schedule. Can we agree to check with each other before committing to things? It felt mechanical initially, but it worked. Rachel didn't get defensive. She heard his actual need and could respond to it. You're right, I should have checked. I will from now on. They implemented a daily check-in, 10 minutes where they each shared an observation, feeling, and need from their day. No fixing, no advising, just sharing and listening. This practice alone transformed their intimacy. They started seeing each other clearly again instead of through the fog of accumulated resentment. Within 6 months, their friends noticed. They seemed lighter together. They laughed more. They held hands again. Communication had been their problem and their solution. Same two people, different skills, entirely different relationship. Your listening practice starts now. For the next week, practice pure listening in 5 conversations. No interrupting. No advice giving unless explicitly requested. Just listen and reflect back. Notice what happens to the quality of your connections. Write 3 nonviolent communication scripts. Take recent conflicts or frustrations and translate them into observation, feeling, need, request format. Practice saying them out loud. Make this language familiar. Create a repair ritual for your most important relationship. This could be with a partner, a child, a friend. Agree together that when there's tension or disconnection, you'll have a brief check-in. What happened for you? What did you need? How can we reconnect? 5 minutes can transform days of cold silence. You're learning that relationships don't have to be draining. When communication is clear and kind, when you listen deeply, when you repair quickly, relationships become sources of energy and joy instead of conflict and exhaustion. Your calm extends outward, creating calm in those around you. Let's talk about how you start each day, because this determines everything that follows. You've probably heard about morning routines. Everyone from billionaires to monks emphasizes mornings. There's a reason. The first hour of your day sets your biochemistry, your mindset, and your trajectory. When you wake up, you're transitioning from sleep state to waking state. Your brainwaves move from delta, deep sleep, through theta, light sleep and meditation, into alpha, relaxed alertness, and eventually into beta, active thinking. In that transition, particularly in the alpha state, you're highly suggestible. What you put into your mind and body during this window disproportionately affects the rest of your day. Most people waste this window. They grab their phone immediately, flooding their system with information, problems, and other people's priorities. They skip breakfast or eat sugar and refined carbs, creating blood sugar instability. They rush, starting the day in stress mode. They react to what's urgent instead of focusing on what's important. Then they wonder why they feel behind all day, why they're reactive, why they can't find calm. You've set yourself up for chaos before you even get dressed. The alternative is intentional morning design. This doesn't require hours. 30 minutes of structured morning time will transform your entire day, which means it transforms your entire life. Start with hydration, light, and movement, the biological trifecta. Your body is dehydrated after 7 to 9 hours without water. Drink 16 ounces of water first thing. This rehydrates you, flushes toxins, and jumpstarts your metabolism. Get light in your eyes within 30 minutes of waking. Sunlight, or very bright artificial light if sun isn't available, signals to your circadian system that it's day. This sets your cortisol rhythm correctly, giving you energy now and allowing melatonin to rise naturally 12 to 14 hours later for sleep. 2 to 5 minutes of morning light exposure is one of the most powerful interventions for energy, mood, and sleep quality. Move your body. You don't need a full workout, though that's great if you have time. Even 5 minutes of movement wakes up your system. Stretching, jumping jacks, a short walk, anything that gets your blood flowing. Movement increases oxygen to your brain, releases endorphins, and shifts you from sluggish to alert. These 3 things, water, light, movement, address your biology. Now address your psychology. This is where practices like journaling, meditation, reading, or planning come in. The specific practices matter less than doing something that centers you before engaging with external demands. The Savers framework, popularized by Hal Elrod in The Miracle Morning, offers a menu of options. Silence, meditation, or prayer. Affirmations, intentional positive statements. Visualization, mentally rehearsing your day or goals. Exercise, which we've covered. Reading, consuming uplifting or educational content. Scribing, journaling, or writing. You don't need all 6. Choose 2 or 3 that resonate. Personally, I recommend silence, breathwork, or meditation, and scribing, journaling. These 3 create internal clarity before external chaos. 5 minutes of conscious breathing or meditation sets your nervous system to calm. You're literally telling your body, we're safe, we can be present. This practice compounds. The more consistently you do it, the more baseline calm you develop. Journaling allows you to empty your mind onto paper, stream of consciousness for 3 pages, or a structured prompt. Either works. You're externalizing the mental noise, creating space for clear thinking. Many people find that solutions to problems appear during morning writing without forcing them. You're accessing your unconscious wisdom. The intention-setting practice is powerful. Write 1 sentence capturing your focus for the day. Not your to-do list, your intention. Today, I am patient and present. Today, I create from abundance, not scarcity. Today, I prioritize deep work over shallow tasks. This becomes your North Star when the day tries to pull you off course. The screen-free first hour is non-negotiable if you're serious about calm. Your phone is everyone else's agenda for you. Email, messages, news, social media. These are inputs designed to hijack your attention. The first hour is yours. Protect it fiercely. Charge your phone outside your bedroom. Use an alarm clock. When you wake, resist the urge to check it. Your brain will protest. It's addicted to the dopamine hits from checking. Notice the urge. Don't act on it. After your morning routine, you can engage with your phone, but you'll do so from a grounded place instead of a reactive one. Let me tell you about Olivia, a teacher managing 30 students daily. She'd wake up exhausted, scroll her phone for 20 minutes while still in bed, rush through getting ready, skip breakfast, arrive at school already depleted. By afternoon, she was irritable. By evening, she was shut down. She'd collapse on the couch, scroll more, sleep poorly, repeat. She knew she needed to change, but felt too tired to change anything. Olivia started with just 10 minutes. She set her alarm 15 minutes earlier, which terrified her because she already felt sleep-deprived. But she committed. She drank water first thing, did 3 minutes of stretching, did 5 minutes of box breathing. That was it. The first week was hard, but she noticed something. Despite less time in bed, she had more energy. The breathing and movement woke her up more effectively than scrolling and coffee. She felt calmer arriving at school. She handled student misbehavior more skillfully. Encouraged, she expanded. 20 minutes, added journaling, added a real breakfast, kept her phone in the kitchen overnight. Within a month, Olivia was a different person. Her students noticed. One asked her, "Miss, are you happy now? You seem happy." That question brought tears to her eyes because, yes, she was happier. A 30-minute morning had changed everything. Your current morning audit takes 7 days. Track your actual morning, what time you wake, when you check your phone, what you eat, how you feel. Be honest, this data shows you the gap between your current reality and what's possible. Then design your ideal calm morning. Given your life circumstances, what's realistic? Even 20 minutes is transformative if you use them well. Build your sequence. Hydration, light, movement, then 2 practices from savers. Write it out, make it specific and simple, then commit to 21 days. This is the minimum time frame to establish a habit. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Even if you only do 10 minutes when you planned 30, that's success. You're building the habit of prioritizing your morning instead of reacting immediately. Track your experience. How do you feel on days when you do your routine versus days when you don't? Let the results motivate you. Most people report that their morning routine becomes their favorite part of the day. It's their time, their peace, before the world makes demands. You're learning that you don't find calm, you create it. Every morning you choose. Reactive chaos or intentional grounding. External demands or internal priority. Someone else's agenda or your own. The morning is where that choice is made. Now we need to talk about energy, because even with perfect mornings, if you're depleting yourself throughout the day without recovery, you'll crash. Time management is obsolete. You cannot manage time. Everyone gets 24 hours. What you can manage is energy. There are 4 dimensions of energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Most people focus exclusively on physical, trying to push through with caffeine and willpower. But you need all 4 dimensions full to operate optimally. Physical energy is the foundation. It comes from sleep, nutrition, movement, and recovery. Let's start with sleep, because this is where most people sabotage themselves. Sleep is not optional. It's not something you do when everything else is done. It's the foundation of literally everything: cognitive function, emotional regulation, immune function, metabolism, longevity, mood, creativity, decision-making. Shortchanging sleep is shortchanging your life. You need 7 to 9 hours. Yes, you. You're not the exception. The percentage of people who genuinely thrive on less than 7 hours is vanishingly small, less than 1% of the population. Everyone else who claims they're fine on 5 or 6 hours is cognitively impaired and doesn't realize it, because sleep deprivation impairs your ability to assess your own impairment. Sleep architecture matters. You cycle through stages: light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, each serving crucial functions. Deep sleep is physical restoration. REM sleep is emotional processing and memory consolidation. You need complete cycles to feel restored. When you cut sleep short, you're cutting REM, which predominantly happens in the last third of your sleep period. Optimize your sleep by controlling 3 variables: darkness, temperature, and routine. Your bedroom should be completely dark. Light signals daytime to your brain, suppressing melatonin. Use blackout curtains or an eye mask. Even small amounts of light from electronics disrupt sleep quality. Cool temperature, around 65 degrees, facilitates sleep. Your core body temperature needs to drop for deep sleep to occur. A hot room prevents this. If you can't control room temperature, try a cooling pillow or lighter bedding. Routine signals to your body that sleep is coming. Same bedtime and wake time, even weekends if possible. This stabilizes your circadian rhythm. A wind-down routine, no screens for at least 30 minutes before bed, dim lights, perhaps reading or gentle stretching, prepares your system. You're creating a transition from waking to sleeping. Nutrition affects energy profoundly. Most people ride a blood sugar roller coaster all day, spiking with refined carbs and sugar, crashing, then spiking again with caffeine or more sugar. This creates energy volatility and mood instability. The solution is blood sugar stability through balanced meals. Every meal should contain protein, fiber, and healthy fat. This combination slows digestion, providing steady energy instead of spikes and crashes. Breakfast is particularly important. If you start with sugar or refined carbs, you set yourself up for cravings and energy dips all day. The gut-brain axis is real. Your gut produces 90% of your body's serotonin. Gut inflammation creates systemic inflammation, which affects mood and cognition. An anti-inflammatory diet, rich in vegetables, fruits, omega-3 fats, and whole foods, supports both physical and mental energy. Movement is medicine for energy. This seems counterintuitive. Moving takes energy. Shouldn't you conserve it? No. Movement creates energy. It increases mitochondrial density, the powerhouses of your cells. It improves circulation, getting oxygen and nutrients to your tissues. It releases endorphins and other neurochemicals that boost mood and energy. But timing and intensity matter. High-intensity exercise is a stressor. Beneficial stress, but stress nonetheless. If you're already depleted, intense exercise can worsen things. Match exercise intensity to your current capacity. Gentle movement, walking, yoga, stretching almost always increases energy. Intense exercise requires you to have energy reserves to invest. Morning movement sets your energy for the day. Evening intense exercise can interfere with sleep for some people. Experiment with timing to find what works for your body. Strategic recovery is the missing piece most people ignore. You cannot go hard all the time. You need recovery periods. Micro breaks throughout the day prevent cumulative depletion. Every 90 minutes, take 5 to 10 minutes to recover. Stand up, look out a window, breathe, stretch, step outside. These brief pauses recharge you. Power naps, 10 to 20 minutes, can be incredibly restorative if you're someone who can nap without feeling groggy. Longer than 20 minutes and you enter deep sleep, waking from which leaves you disoriented. But a brief nap resets your system. One full rest day per week is essential. No intense exercise, no demanding work, just recovery. This allows your body and mind to repair and adapt. Without recovery, you plateau or break down. Emotional energy comes from positive relationships, meaningful experiences, and aligned actions. When you're doing things that matter to you, with people you care about, in ways that align with your values, you create emotional energy. When you're forcing yourself through activities you resent, with people who drain you, violating your values, you deplete emotional energy. Audit your emotional energy sources and drains. What activities leave you feeling uplifted? What relationships energize you? What work feels meaningful? Do more of these. What depletes you? Where can you set boundaries or reduce exposure? Mental energy is your capacity for focus, creativity, and problem-solving. It's finite. You have more in the morning, less in the afternoon. This is decision fatigue and ego depletion. Every decision uses mental energy. Every act of self-control depletes your reserves. The solution is to reduce unnecessary decisions. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit daily, not because he lacked options, but because he didn't want to waste mental energy on clothing decisions. You can do this with routines. Same breakfast, same morning sequence, same workout time. Routines conserve mental energy for things that actually matter. Batch similar tasks. Respond to emails in designated blocks instead of constantly throughout the day. Each task switch costs mental energy. Batching reduces switches. Protect your peak mental energy hours for your most important cognitive work. For most people, this is mid-morning, roughly 9 to noon. Don't squander these hours on email or meetings. Use them for deep work, creative work, strategic thinking. Spiritual energy comes from connection to something larger than yourself. This doesn't require religion, though it can include it. Spiritual energy is about purpose, meaning, contribution. When your life feels meaningful, when your actions matter beyond just your own benefit, you access a deep well of sustainable energy. This requires regular reflection. Why am I here? What matters most? How do I want to be remembered? What am I contributing? These aren't one-time questions. They're ongoing inquiries that keep you aligned. Practices like nature immersion, awe experiences, service to others, creative expression, and deep connection foster spiritual energy. When was the last time you felt genuine awe? When did you last contribute to someone with no expectation of return? When did you create something meaningful? These experiences replenish you at the deepest level. Let me tell you about Jonathan, a CEO who was successful by every external measure, but completely burnt out. He was exhausted despite sleeping adequately, irritable despite having everything he'd worked for. He came to me asking how to fix his energy problem so he could work more. We did a comprehensive energy audit. His physical energy was low due to poor nutrition, all convenience foods grabbed between meetings, and lack of any recovery practices. His emotional energy was drained by relationships that were transactional and work that had become obligation. His mental energy was scattered across too many initiatives without deep focus on anything, and his spiritual energy was non-existent. He couldn't remember the last time he felt his work mattered beyond making money. We rebuilt all 4 dimensions. He hired a meal service to handle nutrition. He implemented recovery breaks and 1 full rest day weekly. He delegated lower-value work and protected his mornings for strategic thinking. He ended 2 business partnerships that were energy-draining and invested more in relationships that were reciprocal. Most powerfully, he reconnected with his original purpose for starting the company, to create jobs in his community that had been devastated by factory closures. He started volunteering, meeting the employees, hearing their stories. His work became meaningful again. Within 3 months, Jonathan had more energy than he'd had in a decade. He was working fewer hours, but accomplishing more. He'd rediscovered joy. Energy wasn't something he needed to push through on. It was something he cultivated through wise management of all 4 dimensions. Your 7-day energy log starts now. Track your energy levels throughout each day on a scale of 1 to 10. Note what you were doing, what you ate, how you slept, who you were with. Look for patterns. When is your energy highest? What depletes it? What restores it? Create a sleep optimization plan. Audit your bedroom and bedtime routine. What needs to change? Dark curtains, cooler temperature, earlier bedtime, Screen-free wind down. Make 1 to 3 changes and implement them consistently. Design 3 recovery rituals. 1 micro break you'll take every 90 minutes. 1 weekly rest practice. 1 daily transition from work to personal time. These don't have to be elaborate. 5 conscious breaths is a recovery ritual if done intentionally. You're learning that sustainable calm requires sustainable energy. You cannot maintain peace while running on empty. Self-care isn't selfish, it's strategic. When your energy is full, you show up better for everything and everyone. When you're depleted, nothing works well. Let's talk about performing under pressure, because this is where everything you've learned gets tested. The presentation to executives, the difficult conversation, the crisis at work, the emergency with your child. These moments reveal whether your calm is theoretical or real. Most people's performance degrades under pressure. Anxiety spikes, thinking narrows. They freeze or make impulsive decisions or fall apart. This is normal. Your nervous system perceives high stakes as threat. The amygdala activates. The stress response initiates. Your body is doing what it's designed to do: protect you from danger. The problem is that modern high-stakes moments don't require fight or flight. They require clear thinking and skillful action. You need to stay calm when your biology is screaming at you to panic. This is trainable. Elite performers, athletes, surgeons, special operations forces, they don't feel less pressure. They've trained themselves to perform optimally despite pressure. You can learn the same skills. Start with pre-performance routines. These are specific sequences you follow before high-stakes moments. The purpose is twofold. Physiologically, you're shifting your nervous system to optimal arousal. Psychologically, you're creating a sense of control and familiarity. Athletes are famous for this. Basketball players have free-throw routines. Tennis players have between-point routines. These aren't superstition, they're nervous system regulation. The routine becomes an anchor. No matter what's happening, the routine stays the same. This creates predictability in unpredictable situations. Your routine should include physical and mental components. Physically, use breathing. 3 to 5 minutes of box breathing or physiological sighs before high-stakes moments will shift your state dramatically. Add movement if possible. Jumping jacks, shaking out your body, anything that releases tension and gets you into your body instead of stuck in your head. Mentally, use visualization. See yourself performing well. Not vaguely, specifically. What will you say? How will you say it? What will your body language be? How will you respond to challenges? The more detailed your mental rehearsal, the more your brain treats it as real practice. You're creating neural pathways before the actual event. Include emotional preparation. How do you want to feel during this? Calm, confident, focused. Whatever the ideal state is for this situation, recall a time when you felt that way. Drop into the memory fully. Notice what it feels like in your body. You're training yourself to access that state on command. There's an optimal arousal level for performance called the Yerkes-Dodson curve. Too little arousal, you're under-energized and sluggish. Too much arousal, you're anxious and your performance degrades. The sweet spot is moderate arousal, alert, focused, challenged, but not overwhelmed. The key is reframing pressure. Your body's stress response, increased heart rate, faster breathing, heightened alertness, is actually preparing you to perform. It's mobilizing energy and focus. The problem is when you interpret these sensations as danger, you create a threat response. But if you interpret them as your body getting ready to rise to the challenge, you create a challenge response. Research shows that people who reframe stress as performance-enhancing perform better than people who try to calm down completely or people who spiral into anxiety. The mantra is simple. This is my body giving me energy to perform well. Try it. Notice how it shifts your relationship with pre-performance nerves. Stress inoculation training is how you build resilience. You deliberately expose yourself to manageable levels of stress, building your capacity gradually. If presentations terrify you, you don't start by presenting to 100 people. You start by presenting to one trusted friend, then to 3 people, then to 10, then to 50. You gradually increase the dose, building tolerance and skill. Create a pressure exposure ladder for your specific challenge. List situations from least to most stressful. Work through them systematically. Each time you successfully handle a level, you build confidence and capacity for the next. Crucially, focus on process, not outcome. You don't control the outcome completely. You do control your preparation and your moment-to-moment choices. In high-pressure situations, focus on the immediate action, the next word, the next breath, the next step. Not the entire presentation, not the outcome, just what's right in front of you. This prevents overwhelm and keeps you present. Post-performance debrief is as important as pre-performance prep. After high-stakes moments, take time to extract lessons. What went well? What would you do differently? What did you learn? This reflective practice accelerates growth, but be careful not to ruminate. Reflection has a purpose and an endpoint. Rumination loops endlessly without learning. Let me tell you about Captain Sarah Chen. She's a commercial airline pilot. The stakes in her work are ultimate. Hundreds of lives depend on her remaining calm and making correct decisions in emergencies. She told me about a flight where they lost an engine. Shortly after takeoff, alarms blaring, passengers screaming, co-pilot panicking. Sarah's training kicked in. She'd simulated this scenario dozens of times. She took one deep breath, activating her pre-rehearsed calm response. Then she focused on immediate actions. Secure the failed engine. Adjust power on the remaining engine. Communicate with air traffic control. Reassure passengers. One step at a time. She didn't think about the potential catastrophe. She focused on the next correct action. They landed safely. The passengers had no idea how serious it was. Afterwards, the co-pilot asked Sarah how she stayed so calm. She said, "I wasn't calm inside. My heart was pounding, but I've trained for this. I knew my training would carry me if I trusted it, and I focused only on what I could control in each moment." That's the essence of calm under fire. Not the absence of stress, but the ability to function optimally despite it. Trusting your preparation, focusing on process, taking it one moment at a time. Your pressure exposure ladder takes 30 minutes to create. Identify your high-stakes situation. List 10 to 15 progressively challenging versions of it. Commit to working through them over the next month. Design your pre-performance ritual. What will you do in the 10 to 15 minutes before high-stakes moments? Breathing, movement, visualization, emotional anchoring. Write it out. Practice it before low-stakes situations, so it's automatic for high-stakes ones. Mental rehearsal practice starts today. 5 minutes daily. Visualize yourself performing well in your challenging situation. See it, feel it, hear it. Make it vivid. Your brain is building the pathways you'll use in the real moment. You're learning that pressure doesn't have to crush you. It can elevate you. When you prepare properly, reframe effectively, and focus skillfully, pressure becomes the fuel for your best performance, not the cause of your breakdown. Now let's go deeper. Everything we've discussed so far is incredibly powerful and still operates at a certain level. There's another dimension of calm that transcends technique. This is spiritual calm, connection to something beyond your individual self and circumstances. This section might challenge you if you're skeptical of anything labeled spiritual. Stay with me. I'm not talking about religion, though it can include religious practice if that's meaningful to you. I'm talking about the recognition that you're part of something larger than yourself, that your life has meaning beyond your personal success or comfort, that there's a depth of peace available that doesn't depend on everything in your life going well. Spirituality, in the way I'm using it, is about three things: awe, meaning, and transcendence. Awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding. Meaning is the sense that your life matters, that your actions contribute to something worthwhile. Transcendence is the experience of connecting with something beyond your individual ego. These experiences are available to everyone, regardless of religious belief. You can experience awe in nature, in music, in art, in acts of extraordinary kindness, in contemplating the cosmos. You can create meaning through work that matters, relationships you nurture, values you embody. You can experience transcendence through meditation, through service, through creative flow states, through moments of profound connection. Why does this matter for calm? Because the deepest calm isn't about controlling your circumstances. It's about knowing you're okay regardless of circumstances. When you're connected to something larger, when your life has meaning beyond immediate outcomes, when you've experienced transcendence, the day-to-day stressors lose their power. They're still there, but they're not existential anymore. You have a foundation that holds regardless of what's happening on the surface. Let's start with purpose. Purpose isn't something you find like a lost object. It's something you create through aligned action. Your purpose emerges from the intersection of what you care about, what you're good at, and what the world needs. It's not one grand destination. It's a direction you move in. Ask yourself, what breaks my heart? What injustice, suffering, or problem in the world genuinely moves me? Also ask, what activities make me lose track of time? What comes easily to me that others struggle with? And finally, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? If money wasn't an issue? If others' opinions didn't matter? The answers to these questions point toward purpose. You don't need to quit your job and save the world. Small aligned actions create purpose. The nurse who brings extra compassion to each patient, the accountant who helps small businesses survive, the parent who raises children with values that will ripple forward. Purpose is available right where you are if you look for it. Practices across traditions offer paths to spiritual calm. Prayer, whether to a deity or simply setting intentions, orients your heart and mind. Meditation, we've discussed practically, also has a spiritual dimension when you use it to touch something beyond your small self. Nature immersion reconnects you to the living world you're part of. Service to others gets you out of self-focused thinking. All of these practices foster spiritual energy. The awe walk is a simple but profound practice. 15 minutes, outdoors if possible. But instead of walking for exercise or to get somewhere, Walk with the explicit intention of noticing beauty, vastness, or wonder. Look at the sky, notice trees, watch birds, observe the complexity of a flower, feel the air, listen to sounds. You're deliberately cultivating awe. Research shows that awe experiences reduce inflammation, increase prosocial behavior, and create lasting shifts in perspective. People who regularly experience awe report greater life satisfaction and meaning, and awe is free and accessible. You don't need to go to the Grand Canyon. You need to pay attention to what's already around you. Gratitude is spiritual practice when it moves beyond surface-level thankfulness. The deep gratitude practice isn't listing 3 things you're grateful for on autopilot. It's sitting with something you appreciate and really feeling it. The friend who showed up when you needed them. The body that carries you through life. The opportunity you have that many don't. The small kindness from a stranger. When you practice deep gratitude, you shift from scarcity to abundance mindset. From what's wrong to what's right. This isn't toxic positivity. You're not denying problems. You're choosing to also see gifts. That both and perspective creates resilience. The legacy question cuts through trivial concerns. Imagine you're at the end of your life, looking back. What will matter? Not your bank account, not your follower count, probably not most of what you're stressing about today. What will matter is who you loved and how you loved them, how you treated people, what you contributed, the moments of presence and connection, whether you became who you were meant to become. Ask yourself regularly, am I living in alignment with what will matter at the end? This question recalibrates priorities fast. The email that felt urgent becomes trivial. The grudge you're holding becomes pointless. The time with your child becomes precious. Living from this perspective is spiritual practice. Solitude is different from loneliness. Loneliness is disconnection, feeling isolated when you crave connection. Solitude is chosen aloneness, time with yourself without distraction or entertainment. Most people avoid solitude. They fill every moment with inputs, music, podcasts, scrolling, television. There's constant noise because silence is uncomfortable. But in solitude, you meet yourself, not the persona you present to the world, your actual self. The thoughts you've been avoiding, the feelings you've been suppressing, the questions you've been too busy to ask. This is where self-knowledge develops. This is where creativity emerges. This is where you connect with something deeper. Start with just 15 minutes of true solitude weekly. No phone, no book, no music, just you. Sit or walk. Notice what arises. It will be uncomfortable initially. That's normal. Stay with it. Over time, solitude becomes a refuge instead of something to avoid. Let me tell you about David, a self-described atheist who thought spirituality was nonsense. He was a successful executive, rational and analytical. He came to me for stress management, not spiritual seeking. But as we worked, I asked about meaning. What makes your life feel worthwhile? He paused. A long pause, then admitted, I don't know. I work hard. I provide for my family. But does it matter? I'm not sure. This question had been lurking beneath his stress. The chronic overwhelm wasn't just about workload. It was existential. If none of this matters, why am I killing myself? We explored purpose outside any religious framework. What did he care about? Economic mobility. He'd grown up poor and worked his way up. He hated seeing talent wasted due to lack of opportunity. What could he do about it? He started mentoring young professionals from backgrounds similar to his. 2 hours monthly. Nothing dramatic. Something shifted. The mentoring became the highlight of his month. Seeing these young people succeed, knowing he'd contributed, created a sense of meaning. Work alone never did. He started volunteering his company's resources to create internships for students who couldn't afford unpaid positions. Within a year, David's entire relationship with work changed. He still worked hard, but it was for something beyond himself. The stress didn't disappear, but it sat in a larger context. He had a reason to push through hard days. His work contributed to something he cared about. Without using spiritual language, David had found spiritual calm through meaning and service. The values clarification exercise is next. Take 30 minutes. Write down your core 5 values. Not what you think you should value, what you actually value. Family, creativity, justice, growth, adventure, security, whatever resonates. Then look at your calendar from the past month. Does your time allocation reflect your values? If not, there's your work. Weekly awe walks, 15 minutes. Schedule them like any important appointment. During this time, deliberately seek wonder. Notice what shifts. Gratitude practice every evening. 3 specific things you're genuinely grateful for, but sit with each one. Feel it. Don't rush. Let genuine appreciation move through you. This recalibrates your nervous system towards safety and abundance. You're learning that the deepest calm comes not from perfecting your circumstances, but from connecting to meaning. When your life matters, when you're part of something larger, when you've touched transcendence, you have an unshakable foundation. The waves still come, but you're rooted deep. Now comes integration. Everything you've learned is powerful in isolation. When you bring it all together into a cohesive system, it becomes transformational. This is about building your personal, calm operating system, the practices and principles that become your way of living. Integration means you're not doing techniques occasionally. You're embodying a different way of being. Calm isn't something you achieve. It's something you practice daily until it becomes who you are. This requires system design, not just good intentions. Start with your core practices. From everything you've learned, what 3 to 5 practices are non-negotiable for you? These are your anchor practices, the ones that if you do them, everything else flows more easily. For most people, this includes some version of morning routine, breathing practice, boundaries with technology, and weekly reflection. Layer these practices using habit stacking. Attach new behaviors to existing routines. After I pour my morning coffee, I do 5 minutes of breathing. After I close my laptop for the day, I do my shutdown ritual. After I get in bed, I do gratitude practice. The existing behavior becomes the cue for the new one. This leverages the power of routines without requiring massive willpower. The weekly calm review is essential. 15 minutes every Sunday or whatever day works for you. 3 questions. What brought me calm this week? What stole my calm? What will I adjust next week? This reflection keeps you honest and allows course correction. You're not expecting perfection. You're noticing patterns and adjusting. Relapse prevention means identifying early warning signs that you're slipping. Everyone falls off sometimes. Life gets chaotic. You stop practices. The question is how quickly you notice and correct. What are your personal warning signs? For some, it's sleep deterioration. For others, it's irritability or constant overwhelm. Know your signs so you can intervene early. Create if-then plans for obstacles. If I'm traveling, then I'll do 10 minutes of breathing instead of my full routine. If I'm sick, then I'll just do gratitude practice. If I'm in a crisis, then I'll prioritize physiological techniques and let go of everything else. Planning for obstacles prevents all or nothing thinking, where one missed day becomes a month of nothing. Community and accountability accelerate progress. Find your people. This might be a partner who practices with you, a friend you check in with weekly, an online community, a local group. When you're accountable to others and can share your experience, you stay consistent. You also learn from others' experiences and feel less alone in the struggle. If you're part of a family or team, scale these practices. Teach what you're learning. Create family breathing time before dinner. Implement team check-ins where everyone shares their current state. Model boundaries and self-care. Your calm creates permission for others to prioritize theirs. This is leadership at the most fundamental level. The 1% rule is your philosophy. You don't need massive changes. 1% improvement daily compounds into 37 times better over a year. Small, consistent actions create transformation. Don't try to overhaul your entire life. Monday morning, pick one practice. Do it for a week, add another. Build gradually. Sustainable change is incremental. Let me tell you about the company I worked with, a tech startup of about 80 people. Burnout was epidemic. Turnover was 40% annually. The founders came to me desperate. They'd tried perks, ping-pong tables, free food. Nothing worked because the problem wasn't perks. It was culture. The expectation of constant availability. The glorification of overwork, the lack of any practices, supporting well-being. We started with leadership. The founders learned everything you've learned. They implemented personal practices first. Then they began modeling openly. The CEO shared in a team meeting that she was protecting her mornings for focus work and wouldn't be in email before 10. She talked about using breathing techniques before difficult conversations. She took walking meetings to combine movement with work. This gave permission. One team lead started ending meetings 5 minutes early to give people transition time. Another created a no-meeting Friday policy for their department. Someone suggested a weekly team meditation, optional but available. Within 6 months, the culture shifted. People talked about their practices openly instead of hiding self-care. Boundaries were respected instead of violated. The focus moved from hours worked to impact created. And the business results? Turnover dropped to 15%. Productivity increased. Employee satisfaction scores doubled. Teaching calm wasn't soft. It was strategic. Your 90-day Calm project starts now. This is your full system integration. You've identified your core practices. You've scheduled them. You've created your weekly review process. You've planned for obstacles. For the next 90 days, you commit to this system. Not perfectly, but persistently. Track your experience. Journal weekly. Notice what changes. How you feel, how you respond to stress, how your relationships shift, how your work improves. Let the results motivate continued practice. Most people are shocked by how much changes in 3 months of consistent practice. At the end of 90 days, conduct a comprehensive review. What practices are serving you? Which need adjustment? What's missing? What's unnecessary? Customize your system based on lived experience. This becomes truly yours, tailored to your life, your challenges, your goals. Remember the ultimate principle. Calm is not the absence of chaos. It's your ability to remain centered within it. You're not trying to create a perfect life with no stress. You're building the capacity to handle life's inevitable challenges with grace, wisdom, and resilience. This is power. This is freedom. This is what it means to make calm your superpower. You've learned to regulate your nervous system through breath and body practices. You've learned to change your relationship with thought through awareness and cognitive tools. You've learned to alchemize emotion instead of being controlled by it. You've learned to protect your peace with boundaries. You've learned to focus deeply and manage energy wisely. You've learned to communicate in ways that create connection. You've learned to design mornings that set you up for success. You've learned to perform under pressure. You've learned to connect with meaning beyond yourself. And you've learned to integrate all of this into a sustainable system. This isn't theoretical anymore. You have specific practices. You know exactly what to do. The only question is, will you do it? Will you commit to building this capability, knowing it won't be perfect, knowing you'll stumble, but staying with it anyway? Because here's what I know. The world doesn't need more stressed, reactive, overwhelmed people. The world needs calm leaders, calm parents, calm professionals, calm citizens, people who can think clearly when others are panicking, who can remain kind when others are cruel, who can see possibility when others see only threat. These people change everything around them, not through force, but through presence. You can be one of those people, not because you're special or gifted, because you've decided it matters and you're willing to practice. Every day, you choose, reactive or responsive, chaotic or calm, overwhelmed or grounded. The choice is always yours. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You've practiced these principles consistently. How do you feel? How do you show up? How have your relationships changed? How has your work evolved? What's become possible that wasn't before? Take a moment and really see this future version of yourself. That person is not a fantasy. That person is available to you through practice. Close your eyes for a moment and take 3 deep breaths. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the support beneath you. You are here. You are capable. You have everything you need to begin. Not to be perfect, to begin. That's all that's required. Begin, practice, fall down, get up, practice again. Let the results speak for themselves. Thank you for allowing me to share these practices with you. Thank you for investing this time in yourself. Thank you for caring enough about your own peace and the peace of those around you to do this work. It matters more than you know. Your calm will ripple outward in ways you cannot predict. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Before we close, I invite you to make 1 commitment, not 10 commitments. 1. What is the single practice from everything you've learned that you will implement starting tomorrow? Name it right now. Say it out loud if you can. Write it down. Tell someone. Make it real. 1 practice, done consistently, will change your life. Then add the next, then the next. Build momentum. If you want to connect with others on this journey, visit the website listed in your audiobook description. There's a community of people practicing together, supporting each other, sharing their experiences. You're not alone in this. Thousands of people are choosing calm, choosing consciousness, choosing to live differently in a loud world. As a final reflection, I'd like you to do something. After you finish listening, take out your phone or a journal. Record a 2-minute message to yourself. Answer this question. What would change in my life if I stayed calm for 1 year? Really answer it. Be specific. How would your relationships improve? How would your work transform? How would you feel in your body? How would your days unfold differently? This recording is your North Star. Listen to it when you need motivation. Let it remind you why this matters. Calm is not a destination, it's a practice. Some days will be easier than others. Some days you'll nail your routine and feel unshakable. Other days you'll be reactive and overwhelmed. Both are part of the journey. What matters is that you keep coming back, that you don't give up on yourself, that you remember. Calm is your birthright, not something you have to earn. You're simply removing the obstacles to what's already within you. This is the end of our time together through this audiobook, but it's the beginning of your practice. Everything from here is up to you. You have the map, you have the tools, you have the knowledge. Now comes the doing, the living, the practicing, the becoming. Go forth with intention. Choose calm, again and again, in a loud world that desperately needs your grounded presence. You are more powerful than you realize. Your calm is a gift to everyone you encounter. Your peace creates permission for others to find theirs. This is how we change the world. One nervous system at a time, one conscious choice at a time, one moment of presence at a time. Breathe deep. Stand tall. Begin now. The journey awaits, and you are ready.